Okay, so I'm itching to use this mid-tone green because it looks like it's really going to be nice and smoky, both the leaves and for maybe a bit of the segments at the bottom. So it's very, very dark in here. Let's pop that in because we don't need to go light with that. We're going to go in with the darker tones here as well. There aren't very many really sort of yellowish tones in there. And again, you're slightly limited by what you've got. I actually quite like leaving that little bit of blue at the bottom. I'm sort of wondering whether I should have left a bit more of that blue in here to define it. You can scratch it out. So I'm going to just pop in some more greens for these spikes. It could be a point where you want to start blending it as well. If you want to do that, then you might want to again be careful where you start and you finish, so that you don't get too much on you, depending on how much you love what you're wearing. This one's kind of poking up here, isn't it, from the top. I've ended up just looking at the picture actually because it's really quite nice to look at that. And also it's going to be what you see. It seems a bit silly me drawing slightly different shadows all the time because I just prefer to draw from life. I just think it's better for you. But when you can't, that's fine as well. It's always really nice to, you can draw from magazines. I was thinking whether I could find something in a magazine that'd be similar for this. I do subscribe to the Garden magazine, which is the one from Wisley, and they have some lovely images in there. But it'd be a case of getting something big enough for you to work from, really. There we go. It might be better if we do one from pen and ink for that. And you could really concentrate on making it more of a botanical drawing if you wanted to, which is very in at the moment. Okay, there's your mid-tones. You want to keep a bit of that energy. And then I think I might put a few of the mid-tones on some of these segments as well. So that little fatty one at the bottom, we can make him look quite nice. Again, it might be good to work against it with a bit of white and start blending it and see if we can get that effect. This is my green end, isn't it? I've been using it for charcoal, so it's a little bit mucky on that end. So yeah, let's just blend stuff up and see how it looks. It's a case of dropping in and sort of almost like painting with the oil pastels. I'm just moving them around. I'm quite keen to keep a bit of this blue in between each of the segments because I think that's quite lovely. And I'm a real fan of using the tone of the paper as well. When it completely goes, it seems a bit of a shame not to see a little sparks of it knocking through. There we go. So look, we can get rid of some of this pink that we used to sketch it out, and then bring in white to sort of blend against it and actually start defining these shapes a little bit more. I do like this smoky green, but I'm wondering whether I need a bit of a stronger green here. We've got two greens in the basic pack, so you've got this nice light green here, which is quite a zingy and it gives you that tropical feel. So maybe we could blend it over some of the yellow, give it that. So especially on the side that's hitting the light. Again, don't want to lose too much of the tone of the paper. Okay, it's kind of looking slightly tropical now. What should we do next? Let's go perhaps in with a little bit of brown. I can see some brown curls in the bottoms of these shapes, so it kind of might be nice to define them using the browns. It also really pops against the green, doesn't it? So maybe we could do these wispy bits and flick them up. We can also do a little bit of that, perhaps on the very ends of these leaves here. I just think it really pops, even though they're not particularly brown, it really pops against that blue, because it's complementary. The red tones really complement. That's really starting to pop and work, isn't it? That's quite interesting. So we could just define that end and keep that blue. Why not? It's that tone, even if it isn't that colour. What you want to think about with oil pastels as well, is it that right tone? Does it matter if it is exactly the right colour? because if it looks okay, leave it. It can be a bit experimental with the colour. This bit sort of curls around, doesn't it? Let's do that with the brown and give it some shape. Make it a bit darker. We can put some darker green in there as well now. This is from the larger set, but you could use a dark blue. Or blend across some dark blues using the smudging tool. If you want to create different colours, you can do that using the smudger. That's actually quite nice, isn't it? That kind of curls around like a little hand. And this is very, very dark behind here, so I think I might just pop in some more darker green to get that depth of field happening, so that you get a real feeling that this side of the pineapple is much, much darker and it's in shadow. So we can put in perhaps some of these shades and just blend them up a little bit, get that real tropical feel. There we go. Okay, and I think we could probably continue that darkness around here so that you can see that's in shadow, and use the darker greens rather than the light on just on this side. And then I might put in a bit more definition with the brown. I don't want to make it look completely, spend too long on it and lose that energy. So I think I'm going to just put in these simple sort of triangular shapes using the very dark, and then perhaps blend them a little bit to the white so that you're getting that feel of the shapes, and then just define them a little bit with the brown. I actually am wondering whether to put a bit of the flesh tone in as well, because there's quite a lot of that flesh tone in there really. These are kind of in that mid flesh tone is quite relevant to what we can see there. So I think we probably can leave flashes of that, perhaps not put it in, but leave flashes of that instead of the brown where we want it. Again, I don't want to lose too much of this. Okay, I think what I'm going to do is just get as happy as I can with the pineapple shape. There's some darks coming in, aren't there, on this side, you can see, and at the bottom. That was how it's going to make it curve, is by making the bottom darker, making it come in again. So you could perhaps use them in a mark making. I would suggest that you did draw this bigger. It is quite difficult to do it small, so I mean, as a demonstration you can see this because I've had to do it landscape, but I would definitely, bulk it up so that the images fit right onto an A3 page if you've got one. Okay, so I think I'm probably ready. I quite like that wispiness of it. So again, a little bit more detail in the browns. It's only because it actually shows up and it pops against there, and you get that kind of feeling of these sort of husky bits whiskering out. It makes it look more pineapple-y. That's my technical advice. It looks pineapple-y. There we go. Because there is that brownness to it. There we go. It's quite a lovely one, this. We've been getting them in our veg box because we started to get a veg box for the milkman, but this is about our 7th one, and we're getting a little bit sick of pineapples, although it's really nice to have, so I shouldn't grumble, because I know a lot of people find it really hard to get food, but we're sticking with our milkman because he's been so great. I think it's going to be something that we keep after this. Anyway, enough about my milkman. There we go. And I think now we're going to put in the red. I think it might be nice to leave that quite free around here because it's kind of wispy. It might be nice to make this a little bit darker though, because it does come in and you want to get the feeling that these are coming out towards you. So I think to do that we do need a bit of the darker green or a blue. I'm wondering whether to jump in with a dark blue to just kind of accentuate that, because it works well with that, with the kind of smoky greens, and really get it to come out, and so that you get this real depth of field, that it's really coming it's really going into the plant. I mean, that's really lovely, that way that curls out, but it's really quite dark on this side, so let's accentuate that darkness and keep it so that it's coming into the pineapple. Get that really dark in there, and perhaps blend that up a little bit so you're blending it, getting that softness. There we go. I think possibly don't want to do too much because it is quite difficult to get these details in using oils pastels. You know, when we were doing the sunflowers, this is a lot of feel of that kind of sunflower problem, because you want them to look sort of structure and to get those shapes and the petal shapes, but it's really quite hard with oil pastel. But they've got that vibrancy of colour that works well with it too, so you know, go with it. Let's have a look. I think possibly a bit of scratching again with no fingernails or a toothpick, and perhaps even getting in some very, very dark. In this set there's a sort of a purpley blue which is absolutely gorgeous, which is almost bang on that colour of the ultramarine, and that purple seems to lift it a little bit because you've got that pink and purple there. So for these dark tones I think I would suggest putting a little bit of purpleness to get that. And it also lifts and it pops against the paper, probably better than that flatter blue does. But you know, needs must, use what you've got. Okay, I don't want to do too much more to that. It's very, very dark down here, so perhaps use the blue for it. You can blend it in if you want to get those shapes more defined. I think I'm quite into making it look quite free. But yeah, let's pick up that blue. It's suddenly starting to look much more rounded because that's receding and going around the corner a little bit. It could be that you do. I want to have a little bit of blue around here.